Hello everybody, it's Mystic and welcome back to my library. This is another episode of Our Life. I think I said the wrong thing last time. I think when I was introducing the game, I think I said Our Life Forever and Always, which I combined the two games that this company makes. It was Our Life Now and Forever and then Our Life Beginnings and Always. This is Our Life Beginnings and Always. I don't know, I'm gonna keep messing that up, so just FYI. We have 2 moments left in childhood, so let's get started. I was told to save Fireflies for last, so I am saving Fireflies for last, but let's get barbecue started. You've been brought along to the big park today, which did an excellent job of living up to its title. The park near your house, with its lonely playground equipment, wasn't even a quarter of the size of the expansive grass and trees that lay before you now. As it was in the next town over, and too far for you to walk by yourself, you didn't get to visit it much, and so you soaked up the environment. Another difference between this park and the one in your neighborhood was that this one had visitors other than you, Lizzie, Shiloh, and Cove. Today, it was the busiest you'd ever seen it, thanks to a community get-together luring people in from all over the local area with the promise of barbecue and fireworks. Your family and Cove's were just 2 of many. What seemed like dozens of cars were parked up already when you had arrived. You saw Cove hesitate as he took in the growing gaggle of strangers. By your mommy, Lizzie bounced on the balls of her feet, barely containing her excitement. The crowd made you nervous, you couldn't wait for the fireworks, you looked forward to meeting more kids, you'd rather have stayed home, your tummy was already rumbling for the food. Even if it was bigger, this park wasn't as special as the one back home. The crowd absolutely made me nervous. I am an introvert as an adult, and I was an introvert as a child, so yes. But you couldn't avoid coming to the event. Mommy had told you that people running the community event weren't charging for it, but she wanted them to get something in return. Which is why you'd not been allowed to touch the beautifully iced cupcakes she had carried on her lap during the drive over. It was a special treat for them. Every time the car made a turn, she'd clutch the box tight enough for her knuckles to strain, much to everyone else's amusement. Mr. Holden's contribution to the party, a huge pack of juice boxes, was tucked under his arm after being retrieved from the car's trunk. You bet there had been no such dramatics around that cargo getting here in one piece, but the boxes did lack the beautiful shimmer of Mommy's treasured cupcakes.
Okie dokie.
Everyone all set? Should be. Cove, did you put sunscreen on before we left? Yeah, I always do. You don't have to tell me. Mr. Holden deflated, his attempt at caring for his son rebuffed, but he triumphed with a smile.
Good kid.
Good kid, I don't want you getting burned, or dehydrated either. It'll be a busy day.
Well,
don't think there's going to be any risk of that second part. Mom nodded at the tables up ahead, laden with all kinds of food and drink. She was right. There was plenty to go around. The parents headed over with you, Lizzie and Cove trailing after them. A bunch of grown-ups were clustered around there chatting, but you were more intrigued by what was on the tables. Some of it was familiar, chilled meat, sliced vegetables, bag of chips, but there was a lot that you didn't recognize. Your moms had said that you weren't to touch the food until they said it was time to eat. You didn't see the harm in just taking a little. You wanted to listen to their rules. You didn't want to risk getting caught. I would have listened. You felt that was important. You saw that Mommy and Mr. Holden had deposited the food and drink they'd brought. Mommy gave the cupcakes one final worried look before turning to you with a smile. Mommy actually sounds a lot like how I am in real life. Like if I've gone through a lot of trouble to make something really yummy, and I really do love baking, I would have been the same way about those dang cupcakes. Yes, before turning to you for a smile. Since that's the topic at hand, how about we freshen up with something to drink? Yeah, that'd be great. Along with the ones out, there was a giant ice cooler on the ground stuffed full of cans of soda, boxes of juice and milk, as well as bottles of water. Your drink was, I don't like milk, never have. I also don't like soda, never have. I would have gone with water, honestly. The water went down easily, quenching a thirst you hadn't noticed. Your little group took a break while everyone quenched their thirst. Mr. Holden smacked his lips, pantomiming enjoyment. That hit the spot, but you kids should go have fun. You take your stuff with you and join the other kids playing games. Just don't go too far from the tables. We'll be keeping an eye out, so don't even think about sneaking off. We're not going to the other parts of the park today. Lizzie huffed at their comments. They did sound directed at her, but she scanned the surroundings, nodding her head towards a group of kids like a general directing their battalion. She pointed that way. Come on, let's go over there. Cove's mouth was downturned as he looked from the parents and the other adults to the new kids, clearly not favoring either option. But ultimately, he hunched his shoulders and tagged along after Lizzie. You went to play with the other kids too. You stuck with your parents. I would have gone, so Lizzie is like the ringleader, right? I would have gone with the more vocal child and let them do all of the talking. Like, I wouldn't have stayed with the parents, but I would not have been the one to initiate conversation either. You followed after Lizzie and Cove, who were waiting for you on the outskirts of the group of parents. Hurry up! You picked up the pace, moving into a jog, but when Lizzie pelted away at full speed, you and Cove had no choice but to break out into a run. The other kids were far out in the field. Still, at your speed, it wasn't long until you reached them. As you approached, they turned around to greet the newcomers. Hi, I'm Lizzie. That's my little sister, Christina. The one with the cast is Cove. You offer a smile. Cove simply lifted a hand in greeting. There was a chorus of hellos and names from the other kids. One of the kids looked to be about Lizzie's age, or older. A couple seemed to be the same age as you and Cove, and there was one tiny little thing with his arms folded over his chest. What are you up to? The first kid, a boy with curly black hair and neon green sneakers who'd introduced himself as Hayden, shrugged as he looked to the others. Not much. The second kid to pipe up, Lisa, had her face half obscured behind the huge glasses she wore. We haven't decided yet. She glanced wistfully over her shoulders. Following her gaze, you saw the spray of water first and heard the shriek as someone got splashed in the face before you spotted the person shooting them. Some people are playing with water guns, but there aren't any left. The smallest kid, Noah, grumbled at that. You guessed that was why he was sulking. Spencer, who hadn't said much, patted his shoulder. So that's out. A new kid raced over with a glint in her eyes and her hair braids streaming behind her. You spotted her plastic orange pistol in her hand too late, when the trigger had already been pressed. Ah! Rude! Hey! Lizzie, who'd been caught first, was fuming. Cove wiped the water from his face. You rubbed at your ear, trying to dislodge the water that had pooled in there. Don't spray people, you laughed. Watch out, he has a cast. You push her. I wouldn't have pushed anybody, but I would have been concerned about Cove's cast. Worried, you looked at Cove's plastered arm. You knew that he had to be careful with it around water. It's okay. The girl simply darted off to find more victims, unaffected by your reaction. She doesn't mean anything by it. Lizzie tutted, flicking her hair out of her face. The girl not meaning anything by it didn't change the fact that she'd been sprayed. Cove looked similarly unimpressed. Lisa's face lit up as she had an idea. Hey, we should catch her. She won't be able to spray people if she's running away from everybody. Yeah! Cove nodded as the other kids murmured their interest, or lack of it, in the game. Let's do it. That doesn't sound like a good idea to me. Okay, you nod along. No thanks. You shook your head. Again, the ringleader is going there, so, this is all just play. It's not like we're doing anything wrong. I would have gone along with it, but I wouldn't have been super vocal about it. You joined the group of kids in tearing off after the girl with the pistol. Spotting you all over her shoulder, she laughed and shot her pistol in the air. Only a couple of drops squeezed out. She swerved, causing discord within your team as someone stood on your foot and you collided with Cove's shoulder. Sorry. He frowned but didn't say anything as he kept an eye on his target. You were closing in on the girl, but you weren't alone. Lizzie's face was set with intent, and the two older kids were hot on her heels too. You outran them easily. You outran them with effort. You weren't as fast as them, but because they were speedy. You weren't as fast as them because you just weren't fast. You moved to the side to let them pass. You didn't want to win this race. Oh, I would have absolutely done that one. With a clear path, Lisa lunged and tackled her friend to the ground. Got her! Panting, she punched the air in triumph, then pushed her glasses back up the bridge of her nose. The girl who had been caught giggled as she got to her feet, brushing strands of grass from her knees. Smiling, Cove caved to a stop at your side. Lizzie whooped with delight, clapping her hands. The boy with the bright sneakers grinned. You're it now. Catch us if you can. Yeah! I'll do it. You won't get away from me. With that, you all dispersed, squealing and laughing as you tried to evade capture. The sour mood from earlier had evaporated entirely, replaced by a light and playful atmosphere. Several rounds later, when most of the kids had taken at least one turn as the scent of smoke wafted up your nose. Caught by surprise, you looked up and found that brilliant blue of the sky had turned orange as the sun sunk down on the horizon. With all the excitement, you'd lost track of time completely. Looking over, you saw people standing over the grills and poking them to life. It was nearly time to eat. We should get over there. I'm so hungry. Our parents are at different spots. Yeah. Bye. It was cool playing. Yep. Bye. You waved goodbye to the other group of kids before hurrying over to your parents with Lizzie and Cove. A tickle unfurled in your throat, growing more persistent as you came closer to the source of the smoke. As the three of you approached the tables, your parents spotted you and came to join you halfway. You tried to greet them, but another cough obstructed your words. Oof, that's quite a cough. Are you all right, sweetie? You nod confidently. I'm fine. No, you shook your head. I'm not sure if it's like from the smoke or if I'm genuinely not feeling good, so I'm gonna say this one. Oh, baby, I'm sorry. The smoke will be gone soon. No one needs to go up to the grills if they don't want to. Just let me know what you need. There was no response from the other two kids here. I can get it myself, Mommy. I can do it. You marched over to the grills. Can you get it for me? Please, could you get it for me? You hung your head, moving no closer to the smoking grills. I can do it. I'll just, not sit near them afterwards. All right, but tell me if it gets to be too much for you.
So?
The main thing being served is kebabs. You can have whatever you'd like on them. There's different meats and veggies. As you approached, you found the vast array of bits and pieces ready to be skewered and served up. You chose. Oh, you can choose? Chicken, beef, shrimp, pork, onions, peppers, zucchini, potatoes. There's no mushrooms? Okay. I love having mushrooms on my kebabs. I love it. Like, I actually prefer veggie kebabs. So, like, mushrooms, potatoes, peppers, onion. So there's no mushrooms. I'll go with, they have zucchini, though. I do like zucchini, although I didn't as a kid, at least not as much as I do now. We'll go with potatoes. Oh, you can choose more. Okay, onions, peppers. That's good. Sounds good to me. The veggies will be good for you. Order given, you waited for your food to be ready. Lizzie headed towards you, having issued her own request. Hi again. I heard what you ordered. I'm getting a chicken kebab with all 3 colors of peppers. Noticing that Cove approached, she turned to him. What are you having?
Why?
Why does it matter? I don't know. I was just asking. I'm getting beef and shrimp with all the vegetables, except onions. Lizzie hummed while evaluating her response. That's okay, I guess, but chicken is definitely the better one. Then you can eat all the chicken. I'm going to. I want some of the chicken too. All of the chicken in the world? Chicken is the worst. This is a stupid argument. Chicken is the best choice. I mean, I don't dislike chicken. I just don't like it on kebabs. So I think we would go with this one. No, that's dumb. You know what I mean. Lizzie peered over the grills where the kebabs were being handed out. A growing assortment of kebabs collected in your parents' hands. They're coming over. Don't get jealous of mine when you realized you made the wrong choice, Cove. I didn't make the wrong choice. There isn't a wrong choice. We all made good choices. Same to you. You sighed. We all made good choices. It's just what kebab somebody eats. The person serving gave your mommy one final kebab. Then your parents moved over to rejoin you. Between them, they were carrying 6 kebabs, one for each of you, including Cove and Mr. Holden. We've got the goods. Cove's daddy is looking for a place we can sit. In the meantime, they began passing the kebabs out to their rightful owners. Lizzie smiled smugly as she received hers. These are pretty big. Be careful not to drop it. Try not to poke yourselves with the ends either. They're sharper than you might think. Hearing that, you tentatively pushed the tip of the skewer against your finger. It felt like the point of a newly sharpened pencil. Though it didn't hurt your hand, you wouldn't want it scraping the roof of your mouth or jabbing your tongue. Mummy clucked her tongue. It would have been nice if the options were a little easier to manage and less messy to eat, especially for smaller kids. There aren't even any plates for anyone, so we can set the food down for a second.
True.
That's what you get for the price of free, but we can hack it, right? Lizzie nodded her head vigorously, clutching her kebab like a trophy. Your parents led you back to the tables. It was immediately evident why Mr. Holden had been sent to scout out one out. The benches had quickly filled up as people got their food. Mr. Holden was standing over a corner section near the edges of the sitting area. He beckoned your group over to them. You clambered onto the bench, taking care not to let your kebabs slip from your fingers. Further along the table, Cove perched next to his dad, while Lizzie took the space next to you. Your mom passed the final unclaimed kebab to Mr. Holden.
Thank you.
Thanks, this looks delicious. Thank you for getting us a place out there. Everyone tucked into their food. You gobbled it up eagerly, only partially obstructed by the awkwardness of eating from a skewer. Running around with the other kids had helped you work up an appetite. Mr. Holden, what do you do?
Well,
I do a lot of things. Do you play golf? Only if you count mini golf. One look at Lizzie's stricken face confirmed that she did not. Oh, that's right, she's a golfer. She could enjoy the occasional round at a mini golf place, especially if she had an audience to impress, but your sister took her passion very seriously. Even then, it's been years since I gave it a shot. Cove groaned at the feeble pun. Oh, gave it a shot. Aha, aha. Mom chuckled. You weren't sure if she was responding to the joke, Cove's annoyance, or Lizzie's offense.
Don't worry about it.
Just as well. She'd be dragging you to the green every week. That's because I've got dedication. You need a good drive or two to get far. Mr. Holden nodded, clicking his tongue in appreciation. Cove looked from his father to your sister, lost in conversation. Outclassed in golf and wit. I don't get it. More golf stuff. You should give real golf a try. Maybe I'll even teach you some tricks. Don't try to change my dad to be more like you. Lizzie gave Cove a dirty look at the accusation. Mommy felt the need to move the topic ahead before it got heated.
Oh, nice.
That's really sweet of you, but I'm sure Mr. Holden is busy. He might not have time for another hobby. Yeah, I don't think I'm made for that. Still, the offer is appreciated.
Why?
Then tell me something you really do already. You just go away every day. I like scuba diving, though with the business, that's more work than play these days. Surfing and reading, snorkeling. Those are things Cove likes. Wow, it's a good thing you live by the beach. You stay quiet. I would have stayed quiet. Alright, I get it now. The sun had been setting when you'd got your food. By the time you'd finished, night had truly fallen. Your sticky fingers were the only remaining evidence of your meal. The kebab had been a great combination, more than the sum of its parts. The seasoning of freedom to choose every ingredient yourself was what made it something to remember. Oh man, I really want a kebab now. But it is, winter and we're not barbecuing at the moment, so gonna have to wait on that. Rising from the table, Mommy held up her water bottle. Okay, now that the food is gone, you've got to wash your hands.
Okay.
Christina, Lizzie, please hold them out. Lizzie complied, coming over and cupping her hands together in front of her. Mommy splashed some water over her fingers, and Lizzie rubbed them together, working off any residue. Here. Mom passed her a paper towel from her purse, and Lizzie used it to dry off her hands. Your turn, Christina. You readily held out your hands, begrudgingly, you didn't move. Yeah, I would have held out my hands. Copying Lizzie, you washed your hands, taking care to clean every crevice between your fingers before wiping them dry. Nearby, Cove had taken his own course of action, wiping his hands on his pants and leaving a stain where his fingers had been. Mr. Holden shook his head.
Come on.
Let's clean that off, pal. He scrubbed at the fabric with a scrunched up napkin. Dad, it's not that bad. When everyone was cleaned up or as clean as they could be with the limited facilities, Mom spoke up.
Let's go.
Let's go make one last check at the coolers and restock on drinks before that fireworks show. No time. We have to get a good spot. Everywhere's going to be taken. How about I go ahead and save space again? You can meet up with me in the field after getting the drinks. Then I'm going with Cove's dad. I'll find the perfect place.
Okay.
Sure thing. I could use an extra pair of eyes. Mommy shook her head ruefully at Lizzie's even more enthusiastic than usual attitude.
That's fine.
All right, me, Cliff, and Lizzie can go find a place to sit. Pam, Cove, and Christina, do you want to get the drinks? Okay. You nod. Okay, I'll get all the stuff we need. No, I want to help pick the spot. No, I would nod. I would do it. As Mommy, Lizzie, and Mr. Holden headed off the wide, open field where the fireworks were being set up, you joined Cove and Mom in returning to the cooler where you'd picked up drinks earlier. Even as you approached, you suspected you wouldn't find much in it. Where it had originally been stocked to the brim, it was now half empty. The ice, which had cushioned the drinks and kept them cool, was largely melted, with only a handful of pieces floating like tiny icebergs. Slim pickings. The drinks that remained looked to be bottles of water, but you caught a glimpse of something more colorful in amongst them. Mom rummaged around in the cooler, excavating a couple of juice boxes from the bottom in the process. Aha! Christina, Cove, you can take one of those if you want. The perks of helping. I really only want the water. Yeah, you took a juice box to share and a water bottle for yourself. Cove hesitated, but decided to take a juice box for himself. When you were each loaded up with your chosen drink, plus an extra bottle or two for someone else in the group, Mom's phone started to ring. She juggled the water bottles over into the crook of her arm and looked at the caller. It's Mommy. Hold tight while I get this.
How are you?
Hey, hun. How's it going? Did you find the perfect spot already? She nodded along to the call, punctuated by ahas at Ma as Mommy gave her directions. Catching her eye, she gestured towards the grassy area. We've got a place. Come on, we'd better hurry before the show starts. You and Cove jogged after your mom, who led you through the field and the separate groups of people assembled there, back to the rest of the families.
Hello.
Hello, we're here, and we come bearing drinks, though there wasn't much left. The three of you handed over the spare drinks. You held up the extra juice box. I brought this for someone.
How sweet.
You're so thoughtful, Christina. Despite Mommy replying pretty expectantly, there was just one person who made a claim to the sweet drink. Can I have it? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. I love you, Christina. Aw. Yeah, exactly. Aw. You two are a real pair. Once everyone had been equipped with a beverage for the big event, you sat on the grass near your family and waited for the magic to begin. Most people in the park had taken a seat now, with a few stragglers silhouetted back at the tables in the distance. A few rambunctious kids were still dashing about, but their number was steadily decreasing as their parents called them over and restored order. Someone bearing a cardboard box weaved between the groups, pausing every so often. You nudged Lizzie and pointed. What are they doing? It looks like they're handing something out. I can't make out what it is.
What a pickle.
I hope it's not drinks. Mommy chuckled, but Lizzie and Cove were now watching the bestower of the mystery goods keenly. Are they going to come to us too? Mom softly put her hands on top of your sister's shoulders as if she feared Lizzie might bolt over to the stranger. Lizzie didn't even glance at her, eyes locked on the potential prize. I don't know.
In that case?
We'll have to wait and see. You were intrigued. I was. Yeah, I would have been. Studying the man with the box closely, as he gradually meandered nearer, you could make out what he was handing out. Small items to most of the groups he was stopped at. They seemed too short to be water bottles, but beyond that, it remained a mystery. Could be bubbles? Or maybe like those glow stick things? We used to get those all the time when we did stuff like this in the summer. Then the box man made his way to your group. Evening, I'm handing out dessert. Any takers? Oh, there's dessert? Lizzie squealed, hopping up off the ground. The man chuckled. Oh, yum, ice cream. I'm going to take that as a yes. Ice cream's on the menu, vanilla flavored with a twist of either chocolate or strawberry syrup.
Nice.
Nice. None for me, though, thanks. Same, but the offer is appreciated. I want chocolate. Can I have strawberry? And a strawberry for me, too, please. Now you're going to have to make a decision. Chocolate or strawberry? Chocolate. There's not even a thing. Although, would I have said it? I would not have said it myself. I would have done this. I would pull on my mom's shirt and whisper that you want chocolate. Oh, and a second chocolate for this one here. Reaching into the box, the man brought out the requested ice creams and tossed them out. It came packaged in a little plastic cup, complete with a wooden spoon stuck to the paper lid. Oh my god, the nostalgia. Those Dixie cups? I think that's what they were called, right? Dixie cups? They were so yummy. The condensation wet your fingers in a pleasant way. Thank you. Kids are going to thank the nice man too, right? There was a chorus of thanks. He cordially nodded and walked off to another group. The man couldn't spend much time with each group considering how many he had to get to. You peeled back the tab that covered the ice cream and got right into your unexpected treat. It tasted amazing. Lizzie was definitely enjoying hers, and Cove was too. Lizzie munched away happily, but it ultimately didn't succeed in monopolizing her attention. Eyes wide, she looked at her mommy and pulled on her pants.
Please.
I didn't get strawberry. Can I have some of yours, please?
Of course.
Of course, sweetie. Lizzie cooed with excitement as Mommy presented her with a dollop of the ice cream and syrup mixture. Licking her lips, Lizzie lapped it up. Mommy, come on now. Lizzie has all the ice cream she needs. She simply laughed and pinched Lizzie's cheek, then dug her spoon in again and held it out to you. I just can't resist. Christina, would you like some of mine? She's got a full cup of ice cream to eat already. But that's not the same as getting a little extra from your mommy. Aw, of course I would take it. You ate the treat being offered, much to Mom's chagrin and Mommy's delight. Cove watched the exchange silently with a blank expression. Mom, on the other hand, shook her head, a fond smile on her face. Well, you better at least give me some too. You could have gotten your own if you wanted ice cream. What? The kids have ice cream already and they're getting some of yours to boot and I have nothing. Now is when you decide to be firm? Laughing, Mommy fed some ice cream to your sulking mom. She could never actually follow through with being tough.
There.
All better now? Yes. Good. How about you, Cliff? Would you like some? No, I'm still okay, but thanks for keeping me in mind. Cove, it's only fair that you get the choice too. Cove shook his head firmly, concentrating on his own cup. Mommy smiled. Okay, as long as no one is feeling left out. Mommy was always so nice to everyone. Then, the first firework cut through the sky, whistling as it ascended until it hit its crescendo with an explosion. The park flashed as if alight. Squealing, Lizzie leapt to her feet, her forgotten ice cream tumbling to the ground as the firework crackled into tiny drops of glitter in the sky. It's starting! Everyone else looked up to the sky as another firework whizzed through the air. With each explosion, Lizzie would jump into the air. The event was thrilling. It was impossible to tear your eyes from the scene. The loud noises hurt your ears. It was kind of neat. You shrunk back. I mean, honestly, either of these would be fine. I'm gonna go with this one. Cove sat by his dad, captivated by the sky sparkles and flashes overhead. Mr. Holden watched the fireworks scene impassively. He did smile at you and even gave a thumbs up when he noticed you looking over. Mommy hopped to her feet, pulling Mom with her, pushing her into joining Lizzie and jumping up in tandem with every crack of a firework. Mommy then bent down to offer you a hand up too. Yeah, I would join my family. Yeah, let's actually ask Cove to join. Cove ignored your invite, choosing to stay outside your circle. You brushed his rebuff off easily, washed away by the way your mom's faces lit up, literally and metaphorically, as you approached. The four of you shrieked and leapt along with the sparkles in the sky, not trying to contain your joy at experiencing the sights together. The fireworks continued, some twisting like the coil of a spring as they arched into the air, others shooting straight from the ground and shattering into a million tiny specks. Every color got its spotlight in the show, from fiery reds to eerie greens and blues that could rival the ocean. You eventually noticed that at some point Mr. Holden had let Cove perch atop his shoulders, or more likely, Cove had to be persuaded to give it a try. Still, Cove's face was covered with a wide smile that matched his father's own. You imagined the view from way up there was pretty impressive. It was also nice that they were getting along for once. The show built up to a grand finale that boomed over the park and filled every inch of the sky, the twinkling lights representing the full spectrum of the rainbow. As the final glittering embers dissolved into the night, you released a deep breath. The afterimage was still burned on your retinas, leaping up behind your eyelids with every blink. Within a minute, the image had been lost, but it was burned deeper still in your mind. You'd been so focused on the show that your foot had gone numb beneath you, and it was only when you attempted to stand that you felt the tingling sensation of blood rushing back to your toes. Cove was on the ground again. Your eyes locked momentarily, then you turned back to your family. The news that Cove and his dad would be coming with you to the once-a-year event hadn't been great. You could admit now that it hadn't been as bad as you feared, but would take far more than not actively ruining one event for you to consider Cove a friend. Though the sun had gone down long ago, the air on your bare arms was warm. You took in your giddy family, their spirits buoyed by the fireworks display, and smiled. This had been a pretty special night. I liked that one. All right, we have one more moment left in childhood, so let's get it started. All right, tonight we are going to catch fireflies. At this blunt declaration from your sister, you looked up from your macaroni and cheese dinner. Fireflies were a familiar sight over summer, coming out on warm nights to dance through the sky. Tonight was particularly balmy. You knew there were bound to be a ton of them around. Oh, you are you? Yeah, you start eating faster. You looked over at your mom's. You pushed the food around your plate. I would probably look at them to see if it's okay. They hadn't answered for sure yet, but if that's what Lizzie said you'd do, that's probably what you'd end up doing. Lizzie was an expert at getting her way, having mastered the art of it by the time she could talk. That's a good idea, Lizzie. Can we, Mrs. Library? Oh, I didn't realize Shiloh was here. Shiloh tapped his fork against the table excitedly, his face lighting up as he looked at Lizzie. It was unusual for Shiloh to still be here. Like always, his mom had to bring him over really early in the morning before her job started. But normally, she would have picked him up by now. She called before dinner to let your moms know she'd be late. You didn't hear why. Probably more work things. You thought maybe getting to hang out with Shiloh for longer is what made Lizzie want to keep running around outside. Staying at home and watching TV was never an option for her with guests over. That's why you were pretty sure she'd get your moms to agree. Well, it's already so dark out there. Lizzie gave Mom the best puppy dog eyes she could, slowly spooning mac and cheese into her mouth while you waited for their response.
There.
Let them go. Nights like this don't happen every day. Your parents exchanged a look, then Mom eventually sighed and nodded back. Yes.
Fine.
Fine. Just make sure you stay on the hill behind our house with all the poppies, okay? Duh, Mom. That's where most of them are. The idea had only just been planted in your head, but already you could just picture all the glowing lights spread out in front of you like the fairies from the bedtime stories Mommy read sometimes. Lizzie and Shiloh started digging into their food, and it soon became a race to see who could finish their dinner first.
Isn't that great?
Aren't you excited to go outside and play, Christina? You gave a non-committal shrug. Christina is just mad because I always catch the most. Lizzie boasted proudly, her mouth full of food, and Mom gave her a stern look. Elizabeth. A knock on the door interrupted Mom before she could no doubt scold your sister. I'll get it. Your big sister jumped out of her seat and ran over to the door, pulling it open without even looking out the window to see who it was. Huh? You shifted in your seat to try and get a glimpse of the unexpected guest.
Hi.
Good evening, Cove. Your mommy had already walked to the door by the time you managed to see past Shiloh's flappy hat. Why is Cove here? Is something wrong? He didn't give you any clear acknowledgement, his eyes firmly fixed on the ground in front of him. You shrugged, going back to shoveling a forkful of macaroni into your mouth. Then, for a few seconds, Cove said nothing. He only stood there and looked up at your mommy with a face almost like he was considering turning around and leaving. My dad told me to drop this off because I guess he borrowed it from you. Cove took a familiar screwdriver from out of his large side pocket, eyes now dropped on the floor. We left ours back home when we moved. Great, thanks, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Here, why don't you come inside for a bit? Lizzie crossed her arms and lifted her chin. Cove shrugged, and Mom stood from the table too. I'll give your dad a call to let him know you got here all right. Cove shuffled fully inside, eyes remaining to the ground. Mommy closed the door behind him.
Hi.
Hi, Cove. Shiloh gave Cove a friendly smile while waving by holding up his hand, and opening and closing his fingers. Cove nodded in response. Cove, are you going to catch fireflies with us? You could come outside with us if you want to. We'll say this one, give him the option. From the corner of your eye, you could see Lizzie glaring at you for mentioning the excursion to an outsider. Trying not to meet her gaze, you look at Cove. Whatever Lizzie thought of him, he wasn't exactly a stranger anymore. We're going to catch fireflies on the hill out back.
Okay.
I want to see them. I've never caught one before. It's too bad he didn't have a chance before now. The fireflies weren't out when he first moved in, and there must not have been anywhere he could use to live. We can't go until after dinner. After she pointed this out, Lizzie walked back to the table and took her seat. There wasn't much left on her plate. Since this was very true, you decided to finish up your own stuff as well. Cove stepped closer and eyed what was on the menu for your family's meal. Have you eaten yet? Yeah, my dad and I ate earlier. What did you have? Eggs. The clipped one-word answer seemed to discourage Shiloh from asking any more questions. His eyes slowly wandered back to the last scraps of food on his plate. Her phone call with Cove's dad must have ended because your mom came back into the room.
Okay.
Cove, your dad said you could stay for a little while if you'd like, but he's going to come get you before it gets too much later. Sure.
Fun.
Oh, fun. This will be so nice. As you polished off the meal, you hoped it would be too. The three of you all finished eating shortly after, and Lizzie led the way outside. Remember, don't stray too far. It's fine, Mom. Shiloh trailed so closely after Lizzie, he was nearly stepping on her heels. Cove hesitated at the door. You smiled lightly at Cove, gesturing for him to follow. After a moment, he did.
Bye.
Bye, children. The two of you were a good 10 or 15 feet behind Lizzie and Shiloh by the time you walked outside. You pushed the door shut behind you, watching their figures get farther and farther away.
Hurry
You're so slow, Christina. We don't have all night. You started to run when you heard Lizzie's voice calling you, but paused when you saw Cove still walking at a relaxed pace. Are you not going to come? You tugged him along. You walked with him. You waited for him to hurry. You ran off. What would I have done? I would probably just walk with him. You wanted to catch up to Lizzie and Shiloh, but it would be rude to just leave Cove alone when you were supposed to be hanging out with him. The two of you followed after the footsteps Lizzie and Shiloh left behind until you reached the hill behind your house. Lizzie had already climbed to the top. Shiloh was spinning in circles somewhere around the middle. Upon seeing the gently glowing, winking lights, you moved a bit faster, eyes widening in delight.
Wow.
Shiloh took a moment to come over and welcome the both of you to the hill. Hi guys, it's really great out, huh? See how many there are? Yeah. A firefly danced through the air, landing on Cove's sea green head. Shiloh couldn't help but giggle. You and Shiloh couldn't help but giggle. You quietly looked on. You shooed the bug away. I would probably just look. You took a couple of steps back slowly, trying not to spook the little bug as you admired how it glowed so brightly against Cove's hair. Cove raised an eyebrow, giving you a confused look, and Shiloh giggled. You gestured to his head, and he reached up, making the firefly dart away. Cove jumped, then followed after the glow. Oh, look, Lizzie has one. That's amazing. Shiloh ran to the highest point of the hill, making sure not to lose his hat or his backpack along the way. You hummed as the group divided and conquered. Shifting your gaze to the dozens of other fireflies sailing around, the game was on. You had a bandage on your thumb, and you tried to be cautious of that. You had a bandage on your palm, and you tried to be cautious of that. You had 2 bandages on your hand, and you tried to be cautious of that. You were good at not getting cuts or scratches, so you weren't too worried about that. I probably would have had, like, 1. Spotting one close by, you approached it with assassin-like stealth, crouching down to make yourself seem less of a threat. Slowly dragging one foot in front of the other, you crept up towards it, arms outstretched. You closed your hand around the little glowing orb, careful not to crush it. The firefly landed on your palm, almost docile, and you stared down at your prize in delight. Its tiny legs tickled your skin, and you giggled at the sensation. Cove kept up with his own target, but when he tried to grab it, his pink cast waved awkwardly through the air, foiling his effort to clap his hands around the firefly. Cove watched it vanish into thin air with a dissatisfied expression on his face. You encouraged him to try again. You told him about the firefly you had. You made a joke. You did your own thing. No, you encouraged them to try again. You walked up beside him and gave him an encouraging smile. Cove didn't say anything, and you thought he must be upset. He walked further up the hill to continue his hunt, and you let your own firefly flutter back into the air. That was fine. You had your own plans. You decided to collect more. I'm just going to sit and watch, actually, because this is more my speed. I wasn't really big on collecting them. I used to just like watching them. You quietly took a seat among the flowers. The others were jumping and dashing all about. You saw how many times they succeeded and failed, how Shiloh almost tripped a couple of times. It was a dramatic show, though around you it was calm. The lights of the stars and fireflies surrounded you peacefully. It was a beautiful night. You laughed quietly to yourself as you watched the others, and Shiloh finally managed to catch a firefly between his small hands. His eyes lit up, and when he spread his fingers to take a peek at it, the bug escaped and flew off into the air. Oh! You watched as he pounced after it once more, but your eyes soon landed on Cove, who had failed to catch a firefly yet. You cheered him on, you scared him, you wait to see what happened. I'll cheer him on. You can do it, Cove! Cove smiled at you for just a moment before returning to the firefly he had been trailing with renewed enthusiasm. While Cove returned to hunting fireflies, you settled for laying back against the soft grass, watching the poppies swaying around you and the fireflies hovering and wait against the vast sky.
Come on!
Christina, Cove, get up here, we're gonna have a race! The shouting caught you off guard. It had been quite a while since you heard from Lizzie or Shiloh. You glanced over to see them standing on top of the hill again, Lizzie beckoning to you with a quick hand gesture. If she was like that, you knew there wasn't much room for disagreement. Up to the incline you went. From the corner of your eye, you saw Cove was coming as well. He didn't care for Lizzie a lot, so you thought he might be intrigued just by the idea of a race. Hi.
Cove.
Hi. Cove, you can't roll down the hill. You could hurt your arm again. You'll be the referee for the rest of us. As Lizzie pointed this out, Cove froze in place. Oh, it was that kind of a race. He frowned down at his cast. This was the second time it got in the way tonight. And this wasn't even the first time she asked him to be a referee for one of her sudden races. What? Yeah, you'll watch and see who gets to the bottom first. That's important. Got it?
I guess.
The cast was sturdy. If he was careful, he could have done it. Lizzie might have just been looking for a reason to make someone else the referee, but it was already decided. I'm gonna stay with Cove.
Really?
Really? Why? You don't have to. It's okay. I want to watch. You moved beside him on top of the hill, even though Lizzie eyed you and made a face. That's not how races work. We need only one referee. Shrugging your shoulders, you refused to budge, and Lizzie let out a huff before throwing her hands in the air. Fine, I'll be the winner whether you join or not. Lizzie moved to lay down, and Shiloh did the same. Cove stood lightly to the side to get a better vantage point, and you stood next to him. Countdown! Cove stood up a little straighter. It seemed like he was taking his newfound referee duties seriously. 3, 2, 1, go! Lizzie and Shiloh took off, letting gravity do the work and rolling at high speed towards the bottom of the hill. You and Cove leaned forward to watch them go, eyes peeled for which of the two would reach the bottom first. They were both neck and neck until about halfway down the hill, Lizzie started to veer off to the side, giving Shiloh a huge advantage. She obviously hadn't noticed a thing, and as soon as Shiloh reached the bottom of the hill, he jumped up excitedly and threw his hands into the air. I won! Almost immediately, he fell back onto the grass, still dizzy from his roll down the hill. Lizzie stomped out of the bush she had ended up in, spluttering angrily and brushing leaves from the front of her dress. Not bad. You got lucky. Let's do it again and see who wins for real. Kids, it's time to come in.
Ugh.
No! You snickered, feeling grateful she hadn't been a part of the mini debacle. Or, you hadn't been a part of it. You caught Cove's eye and saw that he was doing the same. It had gotten late and was beginning to feel just a bit chilly as you made your way out of the hills, but the cold in the air hadn't dampened anyone's spirits. The four of you walked back home together, side by side down your neighborhood street, discussing the evening with each person trying to prove that they were on the one who caught the most fireflies. You knew that whoever really did catch the most didn't matter much anyway. All that mattered was that you all had a good time, which, judging by the smiles on everyone's faces, you did. Okay, so that is it for the moment. I'm going to save this real quick. And I don't know what happens when I click this, so I think I'm going to do it on this episode, and then we'll just start up the next step next time. Move on to the next step. Yes. So is this like a brand new story? Maybe I should start this next time. I'm not actually sure, like, if this is... we'll do it now. I'll never get tired of that view. You stood beside your moms and Lizzie as the four of you watched the sun dip into the ocean somewhere far, far away. You like to imagine it cooling off in the water, resting itself before getting ready to shine brightly again tomorrow. That was a fun day. I didn't know they had magicians on the shopping street now. Neither did I. Oh no, we are so dull. Let's get out more. Oh no, we're still kids. Okay. He didn't do real magic, Mom. How did you figure that one out?
Yeah.
'Cause I know. That's not what real magic looks like. Oh, Lizzie, dearie, there's all kinds of magic in the world. Lizzie gave Mommy a suspicious look, but didn't dispute the claim. Well, we can't sit out here all night. Time to hurry home and get cooking. Who's helping with dinner? Lizzie immediately let out a groan.
Ugh.
Mom, summer's almost over. The protest was obvious. You could practically see school on the horizon. You certainly didn't want to spend your last bits of freedom cooking dinner. You could do that any other day. Please, can we play just a little longer? We have to keep playing before it's too late. It is almost over. You put on your best puppy dog eyes. No, I'm gonna ask if we can. Mom looked down at you with a sigh, and you clasped your hands together to give your plea some extra appeal. We'll help with dinner tomorrow. You immediately nodded in agreement with the very clever offer, shifting closer to Lizzie since your parents can't possibly resist the power of you two combined.
Please.
Soon we'll have homework and reading to do. We can't do work now. Lizzie made her case and then stomped her foot into the ground. You mimicked her, feeling that would add something to the argument. Well...
Now.
Oh, come on, Pam. I can help you with dinner. Mommy leaned in for a hug, and you knew that you were very close to victory.
Okay.
All right. But as soon as dinner's ready, you lot are coming inside. Understood? Yes, Mom. Yes, Mom. So much to do, so little time. I could still get the seashell bracelet at Tines and Trinkets. Ooh, or maybe the playground? Or the fireflies will probably be out, right? We can't go too far. Yeah, I'm gonna say that. Lizzie pouted as you pointed this out. Mom said to be back in time for dinner. It won't take that long. I know, Christina. A strong gust of wind made you shiver. Lizzie huffed as she wrapped her arms around herself.
Rude.
Doesn't the wind know that summer's not over yet? That's all Lizzie said before abruptly turning on her heel and heading off in the direction your mother's had gone. Where are you going? I'm going to my room. I have lots to plan if I want to make the most of tomorrow. You thought this over, looking off towards the water again. Lizzie didn't wait, and before long she was disappearing off down the road. I'm gonna stay out for a little bit. You watched Lizzie run off, twisting your lips as you considered what to do. In the end, the pretty sky and the soothing sound of the waves won out. You strayed off the path, grinning at the feel of the sand quickly filling in the empty space in your flip-flops. That was fun for a while, but you grew bored eventually. How else could you enjoy the remainder of your time at the beach? Look for seashells, drew in the sand. Let's look for seashells. You walked to the shoreline, peering at any debris that washed up. Most of it was just seaweed, rocks, and trash, though now and then you'd spot a seashell. You picked up the ones that stood out to you until you had a nice little collection. It was a great evening, but soon enough you had your fill and were ready to join the rest of your family back home. Not too much further down, you spotted a familiar green head of hair moseying along the shore. Let's just see what he's up to real quick. Curious, you strayed off your path and walked over to him. Cove knelt down, picking up something you quickly identified as a smooth rock. He reared his arm back, then tossed it out into the water. You were impressed at how far he got it to go. It sailed way out into the sea. It was a good toss. That was pretty neat. How about I'm gonna say this one. I'll look for my own rock. Deciding to join Cove, you searched nearby for any rocks or shells that you could throw to. Cove jumped a little when he noticed you and gave a shrug and smile, realizing you'd sort of forgotten to announce yourself. You found a shell that would suit your purposes, a smile growing as you tossed it as hard as you could. It landed with a wet-sounding thunk a few feet away and slipped down into the water. When you looked over at Cove, he didn't seem to notice that his throw had been more impressive. Cove was looking down at his cast, scratching idly at the pink surface, even though you were pretty sure he couldn't feel it. His brows were furrowed, and there was a frown on his face.
It's not fair.
I've had to wear this cast for ages. I can't even swim. When do you get it off? Cove shrugged and didn't say anything. For a second, you thought maybe he didn't know, but finally he sighed. A few weeks. That's not very long at all. That is a while away. You didn't think that's not long at all. That wasn't too bad, you thought. Then at least he'd be able to play normally at recess. And you sometimes got to go swimming during the school year, so maybe he can make up for lost time. Cove let out a huff, plopping down into the sand. I can't believe summer's almost over. You sat down next to him and nodded in agreement, regardless of the sudden topic change. I don't want to go to school. I mean, I would. I don't want to go to a new school. I think it'll be the same school as you and Lizzie. My dad said something about that. So why don't you want to go? It's nice as far as schools go. You'd only ever been to the one school, but you were sure that his old school couldn't have been that much better. Then again, he did have to make new friends and meet new teachers. It could be kind of scary. Cove shook his head, then wrapped his good arm around his knee as he drew them into his chest. You heard a sniffling sound, and when you took a look at his face, you realized that his eyes were wet.
I want to go home.
Aww. You weren't sure what to do. It felt weird to just leave him here crying, but what could you say that would help? You frowned a little, starting to stand. Well, I'm not gonna help him? Okay, well, bye then. Cove gave his head a small shake. No, I want to go back home. Oh, I get it. My game self misunderstood him. Right. Cove wanted to go back to his old home, the one that sat waiting someplace far from here, the one he would bring up whenever he felt this sad. It had been a while since he had moved in, but he didn't seem to feel any better about being here. You settled back down into the sand, trying to consider what to do. Do you hate it here? This can be your home. It'll be all right. I'm gonna ask this because I am curious, like, maybe it'll help him talk about it. Cove's brow furrowed even more. Then he shook his head. You're not going to leave, right? You'll still be around. The question was a little surprising. Of course. Your parents would have mentioned if you were going to move or something, right? After a second, Cove gave a little nod. Once I get my cast off, we could go swimming. You were fine with him changing the subject again. Okay. He had to say swimming didn't sound fun, even if it was already getting chilly out. Cove smiled, then looked back to the waves. My dad keeps saying I'll get used to everything eventually, that I'd feel better. It used to make me angry. I didn't want to get used to everything. You spared a glance over at Cove and saw the anger had slipped off his face in favor of something almost puzzled. But maybe that would be okay after all. As long as I really do feel better, I can't see it. The two of you sat quietly, just taking in the sounds of the waves. Lost in thought, you started a bit when you heard a faint, familiar sound. The sound of your mom shouting your name. You looked over your shoulder, realizing it was probably time for dinner. Had you guys really been sitting out here that long? You stood and dusted the sand off yourself. My mom's calling. It's time for dinner. You should come. Cove looked over at you, expression screaming reluctance, yet ultimately, okay. When you smiled, Cove returned with one of his own. But the two of you couldn't stay there in your own little world any longer. You were being called forward. So the both of you ran towards your house, leaving the waves and the summer behind. Aww. Cove is really growing on me. I wasn't sure how I felt about him at first, but I feel like he's definitely, like, my character's friend for sure. Okay. So, oh, can I change how I look? So I'm going to be a teenager now, right? Would I have a different hairstyle? Probably. I probably would have a different hairstyle. Although it would probably just be... Oh, I like the side. Because that's actually how I wear my hair. But not... I didn't wear it like that as a teenager. We could always change it to wavy, too. I did have shorter hair as a teenager. So we'll go with that. I never changed my hair color, though. So we're going to keep it like that. Everything else... Oh, huh, that's an option. I did have that. We're going to put that on. Earrings? I mean, I guess I kind of wore earrings sometimes. Not those. I tended to wear, like, the smaller kind. Yeah, oh, the little flower earrings. I absolutely had those. How come that's not changing? I'm just going to keep that. Freckles. Oh, and I can have... Oh, I had braces. Absolutely had braces. Didn't change my outfit at all. Accessory types? I wasn't really big on accessories. I'm going to just keep it. I did wear earrings as a teenager, but I kind of stopped as I got older. Yeah, you know what? Let's do a bracelet, because I did wear those on occasion, too. That looks like teenager me. Oh, wait. That's not... Yeah, and voice name is still the same. Okay. Comfort. I'm gonna say I'm relaxed now because I've gotten to know him at this point. There's no reason to be as nervous with him. I'm gonna be more relaxed. And I'm not gonna be indifferent anymore. I think I'm gonna be fond. I wouldn't say I'm crushing yet, though. But we're definitely friends at this point. So, yeah. Yeah, relaxed fondness. Oh, I can customize Cove? Choose to customize Cove yourself or let his prior experience... Oh! I don't want to customize him. I want his prior experiences to do it. So I just choose neither if I don't want to do it? August ended, September began. It was time to go back to school. Lizzie groaned and complained the entire first week. She hated going to classes. Still, there were interesting things to do that couldn't be done anywhere else. You weren't sure how Cove felt about it. He was enrolled that year. That was like a sign Cove would be staying in Sunset Bird for a while. At school, he was alright, but kept his distance from the other kids, from what you saw anyway. Originally, he treated you like everyone else, passing by as if you didn't know each other, but as the years went on, the two of you acknowledged each other more and more. A friendship had started to grow. That year, the divorce of Cove's parents was finalized. You overheard your parents talking about it, saying Cove's dad got full custody. At first, you worried that meant bad news. It had made Mr. Holden cry, apparently. Aww. Then you found out it meant Cove would keep living with his dad. He would only stay with his mom a few weeks out of the year. Cove cried too, for different reasons, you thought. It seemed like Cove and his dad might move again, but Mr. Holden decided to stay after all. Mom asked him about it once. He had said he just didn't want to uproot Cove's life a second time. Mr. Holden tried to get Cove to like Sunset Bird more. He kept encouraging his son to go out and see the place. Sometimes Mr. Holden volunteered you to spend time with Cove. You weren't sure how well it worked in changing Cove's thoughts on the town, yet it might have been part of the reason you and Cove ended up growing closer. Cove never talked to anyone about what happened with his parents and withdrew whenever it was brought up. It was hard for him, yet nobody knew how to help. Eventually, Cove stopped crying on his own. You couldn't understand what had changed. Still, you worried about him. You could tell he wasn't completely happy. Maybe one day he could say out loud what he felt inside. After that, it felt like things had gone back to normal, except what was normal didn't stay the same. Years passed, and suddenly you were in middle school. You weren't a kid anymore. You were 13 years old. That officially made you a teen, even if your sister didn't agree. The toys and crayons that used to litter every free space in your room had been packed away somewhere, replaced by new hobbies. There were other changes, too. Cove's cast got taken off. It was weird to see him without it initially. Underneath the pink plaster ended up being a long, thin scar that snaked across his forearm. Cove's chest puffed out in pride whenever someone drew attention to it. He also went through a major growth spurt. He was the tallest student in his class for 2 years in a row. Cove will probably hold that spot again next time. In class, people knew him for more than just being tall. He also stood out because of how well he did on tests and in other academic situations. Over the years, he began opening up more too. You saw him talking amicably with other kids or neighbors from time to time. And the only kid that came to visit the neighborhood when you were little, Shiloh, well, he was gone. He and his mom moved back south because of their work, just 1 year after Cove came to Sunset Bird. It had been really upsetting when he left. Lizzie was inconsolable for weeks, but nobody talked about Shiloh anymore. It was a long time ago. You learned some heartbreaking things became less sad the further away they were, even if they had never gotten any better. That was sad in its own way. Things at home were different too. You still lived in the same house and all that, but it wasn't how it was before. Ma dyed her hair purple, wanting something new, and liked it so much she kept dyeing it. You remember calling her mommy as a kid, but something like that seemed awkward nowadays. You were much too old for the word. I was actually wondering how this was going to go, because my kids, they both decided they don't want to call me mommy anymore. They're 11 and 9, and so they call me mom. So obviously there was already a mom, so I was curious how they were going to do that. Mom makes sense. Lizzie felt too mature for her nickname too. She insisted on everyone calling her Elizabeth, so you did. Your mom soon gave her permission to go to places other than the playground and shopping street, which she took advantage of. You really saw her around the old neighborhood. In fact, she hardly spent time with you the way she did before. Elizabeth instead associated more and more with girls from school who were her own age. Maybe the difference between 13 and 15 was greater than the difference between 8 and 10. You started befriending new people yourself, like Derek Suarez. He didn't live in the neighborhood or go to the same school. What happened was his and Cove's dad struck up a business partnership a few months ago. Since then, Derek would pop up now and then. It seemed Mr. Suarez was happy to let Derek tag along to his work if Derek had the time for it. Without a doubt, everyone and everything around you had changed in small and big ways. You had too. As time went by, though, it was easy to settle into this new normal. Then, before you knew it, school was over and summer vacation had come again. Okay, so we are going to stop here. I will start the teenage side of things in the next episode. I'm going to try and continue posting this like twice a week if I have time. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm still really enjoying this game. And oh no! I was trying to click save. Okay, there we go. All right, so I will see you all in the next episode. Hopefully you enjoyed. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you did, and I will see you next time. Bye.